Hey everyone, this is Kelsey from the Arcane Library, and I'm here to walk you through a new adventure I'm releasing for first level characters called Ghostlight. Cool. And this adventure is going to be part of a collection that I'm releasing called Legends of the Library Volume 1, but you can also pick it up individually. And it's going to be a full-length adventure, so it should last around 2 sessions. Which is between 5 and 8 hours roughly. And it's always, your mileage may vary depending on how interactive your group likes to be. But this one is intentionally a little bit longer than a one-shot. So let's just get right into it. So I'm going to walk you through the synopsis and background of this adventure. So you might have been able to tell from the cover, but it's kind of a nautical, ghostly adventure. And I think this is a really fun one because it's for first level, but I tried to kind of go all out with it being a little bit unusual and memorable compared to maybe the normal first level adventure I might write, like, trying to clear some orcs off of a merchant trail or something. This goes a little bit beyond that. So what's happening is there's this infamous ship called Ghostlight, and it appears out of the darkness one night and pulls up alongside the character's ship. And it is uncrewed, and it has these sort of haunting will-o-wisp kind of lights all over its deck and these glass lanterns. And invisible hands throw lines and boarding stuff over to the character's ship and invites them aboard. And the characters who are sailors actually would probably have heard of Ghostlight and some rumors and stories surrounding it, but it's rumored to be the ship that's actually the afterlife of dead sailors. And that is, in fact, what it is. So Ghostlight is inviting the characters aboard because it has a problem that it needs some living souls to solve for it. And what's going on is there are some shadow rats, this new monster I wrote, running amok all over the ship. And there are several extra-dimensional spaces inside this ship. So there's the afterlife for good sailors and one for bad sailors, and then some in-between spaces. And these rats are running around because the guardian of the underworld has been taken captive by the spirit of one of the sailors who he was overseeing. He got tricked and they traded places, and now this evil sailor named Jarvey the Whistler is now ruling the Galley of the Damned, and he's abusing some of his powers, and his behavior is generating these shadow rats that are attacking all of these souls aboard the ship. So when the characters board the ship, hopefully they will, there are 3 hooks in here to reward heroism and discovery. And hopefully the characters will take the opportunity to board the ship, given that it's such a famous and rumored place. So if they do, the first thing they're going to discover on the deck, which is depicted right here on this map, is that there are 3 shadow rats that were hiding who leap out and attack them and sort of give them a hint that something is wrong on this ship. And so hopefully they defeat those shadow rats. And they can also find some treasure on deck, too, if they look around. And at that point, there's a door that leads below decks. And when they open that door and go down, I think they're going to start to get the sense that something is really different about this ship, because it opens up into a 3-story tavern called the Wailing Banshee. And this is actually where all the souls of dead sailors and pirates go when they first die. So when the characters get in here, there are going to be dead souls materializing at the bar. And there are going to be all manner of sailors in here sort of waiting for their turn to be passed along to their respective afterlives. And the proprietor of the Wailing Banshee is a dwarf named Darby Grizzlegut. And he is actually an androsphinx, but he likes to go around looking like a dwarf who has sort of cat-like mannerisms and behavior, sort of subtly. And he's the keeper of the tavern, but he himself can't travel between the other parts of Ghostlight. It's forbidden. So he is the one who approaches the characters and tells them that something seems wrong. He hasn't been able to send evil souls onto the afterlife for 3 days or so. And he asks whether because they can move freely about the ship, not being dead spirits, whether they could try to find out what's going on. And so he gives them this quest. And if the characters agree, They can spend a little bit of time in the Wailing Banshee, and there's some charts to help generate NPCs and certain things, depending on how long the characters want to be in there. But at some point, if they accept this quest from Darby, then they're going to move on to the first part of the afterlife for sailors called the Fiddlers Green. And this is where good sailors go. And it's a beautiful sort of surreal world. And you get to it by opening up a trap door beneath the bar, and Darby lets the characters go down there. And it opens up into this sunny, beautiful world with this big willow tree and sort of this surreal haze. And it's filled with reveling sailors who are singing and dancing and drinking and just celebrating. And it's sort of an infinite field of celebration. And just sort of an aside, the vibe of this location was inspired by the final world in Majora's Mask, the Legend of Zelda game for N64. And if you've played that, there's this planet that has this, it's a small planet with a tree, and it has this sort of misty feel to it and this very surreal vibe. And so that is actually where I sort of pulled some inspiration for this. And so what happens when the characters are on the Fiddler's Green, the whole challenge there is resisting the pull of the enchanting and intoxicating things there. And so there are 3 events that happen in order that the characters will have to overcome or resist. So there's the event 1 called the Fiddle, and they're going to have to resist this beautiful, enchanting music. And then the drink, they're going to have to not become intoxicated by this magical grog. And then the 3rd event is the Rats, where some shadow rats appear, and I think sort of remind the characters of their quest and start attacking a sailor. And so the characters will have to defeat the rats before they can destroy some spirits. After that, the characters will find there's a door in that big willow tree that they can enter, and it leads into a sewer, which I thought was kind of fun because a lot of classic D&D adventures, especially low-level ones, involve going into sewers and fighting against rats, and I thought it'd be fun to use the extra-dimensional space in this ship to create an in-between area that is a sewer. So there's a map here of the sewer, and the characters can explore it, and it has a few denizens in it. There are some rooms that contain some treasure and some, like a swarm of rats in one. And then one of the big things the characters will find is that there are 2 warg guardians who are living in a sort of cave part of the sewers. And these wargs are sort of meant to keep roaming spirits and invaders out of this in-between space between the afterlives. And their names are Hruther and Balix, and they can be persuaded to let the characters pass, but also it might just result in a combat with them. And so it's kind of up to the PCs how they want to try to get past these 2 wargs. And then, depending on what happens, which direction the characters go, they're going to encounter a room with a green hag named Mad Tilly. And she's been hiding out here, and she has an arrangement with the wargs so that they sort of leave each other alone as long as she brings them rats to eat. And she's been down here for a very long time trying to figure out how to get off of Ghostlight. And so she could either be a helper or an antagonist to the characters. She offers to help them if they'll bring her some components. She needs to complete a spell that she's been working on to get off of this ship. And so that would be kind of fun if the characters decide to do that. The components are sort of up for interpretation because they're a dead eye, a divine breath, a stolen drink, and a last song. So I think it'd be fun to leave that a bit up to the character's interpretation, and as long as they supply something that matches, then I would let that work for Mad Tilly. And she can give them information about really what's going on board the ship. So once the characters sort of reach the last section of the sewers, there's this big room that they're going to have to cross with all this floating debris down here. And then there's a door that leads on to the Galley of the Damned. But to get there, they'll have to cross over this floating field, and beneath the water is a giant octopus that's lurking and tries to knock players into the water, and once they fall in, drag them down. So that's a bit of a cool tactical combat for them. And so once the characters move past that point, they're going to be able to enter the Galley of the Damned, which is the afterlife for evil sailors. And this is a sort of infinite galley where the souls of evil sailors are chained to oars and forced to row for the rest of their existence. And the galley actually is an infinite space, but because there's a combat that takes place here, I made sort of a contained area. So this is a bit of where you can use some DM magic and, you know, this place can appear infinite but be a finite space for the purposes of the fight. And I think that adds to sort of the mysticism of the Galley of the Damned. So when the characters enter, they're going to notice that Jarvie the Whistler, the troublesome spirit of the sailor, is sitting on a throne at the far end of the galley. And as they enter, 4 shadow rats leap out and attack them. But throughout their time in the galley, they're going to see Escaril the Rat King sort of jump up and yell to be released from his prison. And the characters will get to duke it out with Jarvie and the rats, hopefully defeat Jarvie and take the pipes of the sewers away from him that Jarvie stole from Escaril. Hopefully they'll be able to restore Escaril the Rat King to his former position as the keeper of the galley. And upon doing so, they'll have solved the problem that was happening here. The shadow rats will turn into normal rats under the control of Escaril, and Ghostlight will be back to its harmonious balance of the afterlives. So at that point, you can move on to the aftermath. There are a few future adventure hooks, especially relating to Mad Tilly. Darby might reach out to the characters again. Ghostlight might reappear at some point. There's some treasure that they can find aboard too that leads to other potential cool adventures, like there's a treasure map. And maybe they've even spoken to some souls or spirits aboard the ship who have given them future adventure hooks or ideas as well. So that's the whole story then with Ghostlight. I really hope you guys enjoy this one. If you get a chance to run it, let me know what you think. You can pick this up at thearcanelibrary.com. And I really appreciate you all listening to this walkthrough. All right, happy gaming. Bye.